Welcome to the Catbird Quilts. I'm Kathy Martin. Today's QuiltCon video, we're going to be showing quilts from the modern traditionalism category, and there's a lot to see. So we're in modern traditionalism, and this is called Beaded Curtain by Andrea Barrett. We've seen others from Andrea this year. It looks exactly like a beaded curtain over a window. It reminds me of my grandparents. They had that beaded curtain hanging over a open doorway. And the Wendy's, the restaurant Wendy's, when I was a teenager in the 80s, had a beaded curtain. She says it's just a simple 4-patch turned on its side and with puddles at the bottom. She felt like it created a scene, like a view through a window with a beaded curtain. She's got some metallic fabrics in there. The black is a metallic glitter fabric, so it definitely has that sparkly, reflective thing going on. So this is Bird Amongst the Flowers by Lindlee Smith, and she said the challenge was to use magenta, which is not a color that she uses a lot, but I had to give it a try. In seeking inspiration, I found a lot of magenta in flowers and a few colorful birds. That was her inspiration, and she really used that color very well, transitioning from that pairing of magenta and turquoise and aqua over to peach and orange and rust. It's such a interesting choice of colors and celebrates magenta. All right, so this is in modern traditionalism. It's Star Bright, Star Not Quite Bright by Robin Thomas. She had a quilt in the minimalism category that is called Sunbeam. This one is really neat because it's a star block that is not totally connected in the center. So she's broken off 4 pieces, and instead of an 8-pointed star, she has a 4-pointed star with the remaining 4 star pieces at an off-kilter angle. Part of what makes this quilt so compelling, besides lovely color choices together, is the quilting that she did. And so what she did is actually make a star quilt in the quilting. So the quilting pattern is a star around the central 4-pointed star. So the quilting is interesting. It's set on this pale blue background, and these vibrant, almost rainbow colors of the 8-pointed star that's not an 8-point star. So this is Kiwi Peel by Ben Darby from Huntsville, Alabama. Alabama, represent. This is the first place winner in modern traditionalism. And he said it's based on inspiration seen in upholstery fabric. He used computer drawing software to draft overlapping, distorted circles and had templates made for the resulting shape. The fabrics are all Allison Glass kaleidoscope yarn dyes. This is the second of what may become a series of quilts. So it's an orange peel. You guys can see it's absolutely an orange peel, but it's a wonky orange peel, which is not something that very many people do. And I love that. So we see wonky HRTs, not very often wonky HSTs, but a wonky orange peel is pretty rare. And he did a combination of straight line and grid quilting. All right, so we're in modern traditionalism. This is Vermilion Bloom, which I had to just say something about because I love the word vermilion. It's like Buddy the Elf, and it goes Francisco. I'm like that with vermilion. Vermilion. It's one of my favorite colors, which is actually, so it's red-orange, and it's by Netta Brown from Victoria, British Columbia, Canada. And she said, exploring complementary color play led me to this powerful combination. I love how cyan makes red sing while not disappearing into the background. And that is exactly what that does. I think this quilt sings. It is bold. I mean, it will put your eyes out, but I also love it. She used multiple tones of the 2 colors along with dense quilting to give the feel of depth and movement. And let me tell you, this pebble quilting in the center of this bloom is just, talk about making it sing. So there's straight line quilting in that, around the outside with the cyan, and then the bloom is all this pebble quilting that makes it, I just want to touch it so bad I can't stand it. This is homegrown North Carolina indigo quilt close to home by Kenzie Barrett. And we actually just met the artist. We just met Kenzie. I thought this might be shirts, but it's actually hand-dyed indigo fabric. Looks like chambray. And it's really like a variation on a trip around the world. And we were talking about how the tricky thing about trip around the world quilts is you have to know where you're going before you ever start. So just a lovely, lovely quilter and a really, really beautiful quilt. So we're in Modern Traditionalism. This is the second place winner, Star Bright, by Jennifer Canden. And she said, colors have conversations with one another. They exist in relationships where one color whispers, another shouts. And so what she did was a modern take on a traditional star block with a distinct center that is surrounded by exaggerated, elongated offshoot points that are pieced from thin strips of hand-dyed linen. These thin strips in aquamarine, blue, seafoam are all hand-dyed linen. And then you have the little crazy contrasty center on this whole big wash of gold and mustard. So this is Backcountry Star by Lindlee Smith in the Modern Traditionalism category. This is the third place winner. And on her placard, she says, rather than centering the stars in each block, I designed this quilt by rotating the star quadrants. So the center of the star was on the outside corners of each block. The effect is that your eye is drawn to many spots of the quilt rather than just the center of each block. As a result, there's a primary design of each block and a secondary design where the blocks meet one another. So it's almost like you see the squares with the triangles coming off of it instead of the center striped star blocks. So this is Jen's Ladder, Climbing Jacob's Corporate Ladder by Jennifer Sorensen. And she said, as she looked for ways to modify and modernize a traditional block, the Jacob's Ladder block resonated with me in many ways. She was faced with a number of challenges at work, and it started to represent the challenges that I and many other women face in the corporate world being female. This thought became therapeutic yet poetic because very few blocks are at the top of the quilt, and there are many rotated and missing blocks representative of the many challenges we face in the business as women. The machine quilting is a traditional motif, the orange peel, yet is broken and out of order at times to complement the modern traditional feel of the quilt. So this is Winding River by Vasudha Govindan from Houston, Texas. It says Winding River is based on the elongated version of the traditional curved log cabin block. The rectangular block shape exaggerates the curves, giving it the illusion of a winding river. So the quilting actually reinforces that with the wave up into the blue and then the straight line quilting at the top. It's almost like there's this, well, it is. It's a winding river up along the edges of something far more structural. Lots and lots of piecing in this quilt. Beautiful quilting and a really interesting color palette too. This is called Fisheye by Cecilia Koppmann. She said, the simplest pattern or design can be enhancing with the use of coloring. It can be transformed into captivating artworks. So you can see it has like a fisheye lens, but it's all really straight pieces, but it's just because of the way that they're done with color and shape and size that makes it have that illusion of the fisheye where it's curved out in a convex shape. All right, so in the Modern Traditionalism category, this is Iridescence by JULI Reuben. We like JULI Reuben a lot. She said Iridescence is the second in a series of 4-color quilts that use dense hand stitching to create a secondary surface design. I originally intended to create a cross quilt with the dark red as the background, but I didn't like it, so I recreated it as a square in a square. When the top was complete, it reminded me of a classic Amish quilt. Since Amish quilts often add a diamond to the center square, I decided to stitch a diamond over the top of the quilt. I stitched improv wavy lines and using different colors in the 4 quadrants. The color of the stitching changes the appearance of the color in the fabric. I named it Iridescence because, looked at from certain angles, the quilting in the center diamond shimmers like an oil slick or a soap bubble. That's just so crazy because that diamond in the center looks like it's it looks like piecing, but it's not. It's the quilting that makes it have that diamond. This is Intersections by Sandy Gregg. She said, bullseyes intersected with ovals, a pattern taught by Jenny Haynes in one of her online workshops. It's really just an interesting idea of the ovals and the circles together with this grid-like quilting over it. So it's that modern traditionalism. It feels like it should be a very old pattern, but it's actually a very modern pattern. So here in modern traditionalism, this is Marine Layer, and it's by Susan Braverman. And this is what she says: the classic snowball block goes to the beach. I used a color palette inspired by morning coastal cloud over the ocean that gives way to sunshine. And that is exactly what I see when I see this. So that sunshine with the yellow and orange and red or coral. There's a blue wavy quilting throughout the entire piece. So blue wavy horizontal quilting. And then right in the edges of the center box is a orange straight line quilting, horizontal and vertical, that intersects at the corners, making a grid. And so it's just this really interesting idea that the sunshine popping through the clouds and then the ocean, and she calls this Marine Layer. I really like this. So this is Shattered Sunset by Colleen Kesterson. She said the quilt was inspired by the color palette in a 1958 art exhibition book cover, but the stark design featured columns of elongated triangles that looked like asymmetric flying geese blocks. So that was the influence here. This is the modern part of the modern traditionalism. It's like flying geese blocks, except elongated and altered in some way. So she said, when putting this composition together, the combination of colors, the shapes, and the mirroring of the color gradation reminded me of a sunset over the Pacific Ocean, where the light seems to be 1,000 different shards of color that is reflected from the setting sun over the water. We're looking at Big Ocean by Tara Faughnan. And she said this is a classic take on a classic ocean waves quilt lock. Working with a repeated shape, the interplay of color and value takes center stage. She used metallic thread in the quilting. I can't tell you really what I love about this quilt. There's something about the color combination and the value change, the darks in the center and out toward the edges. And I typically don't love metallics, but I think this is a very good use of the metallic thread in the quilting throughout. This is a cup of cubist coffee and a chocolate chip cookie. It is very whimsical. This is by feitelson from Montague, Massachusetts. She said she adapted the aspects of cubism in the playful variety of the shapes atop the cups. So those of you that are familiar with cubism as an art form, it's taking different perspectives at the same time. So you may be familiar with the works of cubist artists. So what she did is some of the cups are like you're looking down on them. Some are that you're looking across from them. And some are the half ellipses and the half circles represent coffee or the interior of the cup or a reflection of the shadow. So you get that looking down in it, looking across it, and then looking at it at an angle. The polka dotted circles represent cookies. Color is of utmost importance to me. The cups, cookies, coffee, and backgrounds make stair steps of flowing color. It's just very whimsical. This quilt is very whimsical, and I like this idea of multiple perspectives at the same time. So this is, a grungy, curvy, modern four-patch by Donna Ciliberto. And she said it's time for the four-patch to gain some traction in the modern traditionalism category. Move over, HST. I'm a big fan of the four patch right now. We're doing a disappearing four patch with the patrons in my Patreon, and we're having a great time with it. So she said the quilt is made up of four patch blocks that have been modernized with two curved quadrants. The use and placement of yummy grunge fabrics creates not only movement, but interesting patterns, but also an ethereal glow, all with the mighty four patch. The quilting is inspired by parquet flooring with inset designs, in this case, inset diamonds. I hope you enjoy this experiment. Donna, I enjoy this experiment a lot. And I love your parquet floor quilting and your color choices and your curved four patches. It really does have some of the four patches have this like low volumes together. And so it makes them, they're less stand out, but it really still informs the overall design.